Hello and warm welcome to you from this Google event space. Now, please take note of the following important safety and security procedures. Remember to wear your visitor badge at all times. Always stay with your host. Be sure you know where exits are and avoid blocking aisles and exit routes. In the unlikely event the fire alarm is activated, leave your belongings behind and immediately go to your nearest emergency exit. Follow the posted exit signs directing you to the closest exit route. Do not use the elevators. In the event of a medical emergency, please notify local professional emergency services immediately. If you need additional assistance exiting the building, immediately make it known you need assistance. Call posted emergency numbers or contact professional emergency responders and communicate to them your exact location. Once outside the building, head towards the evacuation assembly area and stay near your event host at all times. When it's deemed safe to repopulate the building, an all clear will be given at the evacuation assembly area. Now, please silence your phones. Remember our important safety and security procedures and enjoy your time at Google.
The startup journey is a journey and a fight against yourself.
With capital comes speed. You can hire a team. If you build everything yourself, you're just going to be too slow.
I'm looking for purpose companions.
This planet is a point in a big universe, so don't take yourself so serious.
One thing that I will say, you have to plan for scale.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode.
To the second episode.
Welcome to
the fourth episode
of The Founder Story. I talk to startups every day with founders, and one thing they mention is that they feel like sometimes like lone warriors.
They think, oh, you know, we're pretty good in one thing, but we've heard from other founders they're good in another thing. We would love to exchange with them. So clearly there's a need for this community.
We have a lot of founders here who have built their company on a digital-first vision.
My name is Federico.
My name is Gilda.
I'm Pierre. I'm the founder of Happy Meter.
In my life, I founded 4 different companies.
Everyone here is coming with the idea that they want to improve, to make a change.
You do have real founder, you have company serving them, you have people from Google.
It's special because we have different point of views of the solutions you can apply to the problems.
Yeah, we will definitely keep working on new ideas and how can we make this format even better, even bigger, and even more beneficial for everyone involved.
The venue is excellent. The food is excellent, and the team of Google excellent as well.
I love coming here.
I can't wait to attend the next one.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another Founder Story today. And some of you that have been here before, you know how we usually start our sessions. I will take a selfie, so please give me your biggest smile. All right. Smile, everyone. And after the session, I will be posting this on social media, and I invite you as well to share your favorite moments and your impressions of this event so we can keep the community growing. And here, I would like to give a special thank you to all of those of you who have been in our prior sessions, who have shared their moments, and especially who have given their feedback, because based on your feedback, we make every content for every session. And one of the feedbacks that I received a lot in the past is, when are you finally doing a Web3 session? And so here we go. Welcome to the Founder Story Web3 edition. So I may not promise that our session will be as funny and as entertaining as this video, but I hope that at least it will be more inspiring and insightful. And just for a quick pulse check, who knows the video? Who has watched it? Not as many as I expected, all right, so you know what to do afterwards, because it's very entertaining, so if you're looking for a good laugh, then watch BitVoice video. But let's get on with a less fun picture, and I think it's not a surprise to anyone that this year hasn't been the best for crypto. And actually, I would like to ask you to guess how much have crypto firms raised this year by May 2023? Any guesses in the room?
2.
How much?
2.
2, 10?
I think 15.
15? Okay, any? Okay, so you are quite optimistic, unfortunately. Yeah, the picture doesn't look very nice. But luckily, I think that a lot of here in this room and outside strongly believe in the technology, that they believe that it's here to stay and that it's all turbulence times that we will pass, and that the future looks very bright for Web3 because it has potential to revolutionize many industries. And many in this room might be wondering what Google is doing here. So we're also strong believers of Web3. We actually have been engaged in this space for quite a while. And actually, last year, we were the largest investor in Web3, which many people don't know. And we even have a dedicated Web3 team, and we have the honor to have someone from this team joining us today. He's the head of Web3 EMEA and traveled all the way from Amsterdam. And before I ask him to join on stage, I always ask the panelists to share a fun fact about themselves, and then it's up to you to guess whether it's indeed correct or whether that person might be lying. So apparently, his wife almost called off their wedding because she found out that he invested in Bitcoin just 2 weeks before the wedding. So what do you think? Is this true or a straight up lie? True. True. So Daniel, tell us for yourself, and please join me on stage.
Hi everyone. Great introduction. Welcome everyone. Great to see everyone here. And to answer the question, it's actually a true story. So this goes back to 2013. I have the ring. So we did get married in the end. So that's the good news. But I was looking at Bitcoin for probably 18 months or so, and I just didn't have the guts to buy my first Bitcoin. And then indeed 2 weeks before our wedding, at I think a Thursday night, late in the night, I thought, well, it's now or never. And it had gone up and down, and it was $15, and then it went all the way up to $250, and I started to panic, and I thought I was way too late at the time. So yeah, I did, and then my wife found out, and she wasn't yet into Bitcoin at the time, so it was a bit of a discussion.
So you converted her.
I orange-pilled my wife, indeed, so that's the good news.
So now you're just working for fun, or?
No, well, it's just a number on the screen. So we're hodling, of course. So that's why I have all the gray hair. It's tough, especially now.
Indeed. So Daniel, some people in the room may know you already, but some probably have never seen your face. So maybe you can share a bit about your background and also your role at Google.
Sure. So I've been with Google coming up 6 years. So I've just told you the story of how I got into crypto. I was working with a number of colleagues who already were aware of the famous white paper, kept talking about it. That's why I got nervous and in the end decided to get into Bitcoin. And that is then going down the rabbit hole, and you start to look at all the different systems that we have in the world, and there's just no going back. For me, it was like the Matrix, I guess. So I got involved in more and more projects. We had the famous ICO boom. Won a lot of money, lost a lot of money. And then in Google, actually I found out that there was a really active, vibrant community around Web3. And this is probably dating back 2 years ago or so. And then I got actively involved, and you yourself, you were already involved. And about 18 months or so ago, we thought there's such a great opportunity for us, but also it's so well aligned to our philosophy as a company, and I'll get to that later. Shouldn't we be doing more in this space? And we started to write down plans, and the conversation went up and up and up and up in Alphabet. And at some point, we got to convince our CEO to actually invest. And today, the Web3 team globally has about 80 or so people, all dedicated to Web3. So that is go-to-market and engineering. And actually, this year has been, I think, quite a challenging year for crypto and Web3 in general. But we have doubled down. We kept investing and growing. So teams are still expanding, and we're super excited about this space. So yeah, thanks everyone for being here. Clearly, crypto is not dead, as everyone keeps telling me. So here we are.
Yeah, so we have been to a few Web3 events in the past, right? And when you come as Google as like the poster child of Web2, you get some weird eyes, and people are asking what are you doing here? So what are we doing here? What are we doing in the Web3 space?
Yeah, shall I take this?
Yes.
I blame Tracy for that a little bit. She knows this is coming. This was CV Summit last year, actually, when during the keynote we were announced as what was it again, Tracy? The more traditional
companies. I was there as well.
So that was painful. However, yeah. So I mean, what we want to do, as you can see here, our mission is to be the best place for builders to develop their blockchain-based applications. That's really what we want to do. And there are probably two elements to that. One is we have a big enterprise customer base, and we would love to be the bridge between Web 2 and Web 3. And I think if you look at the innovation that is happening in enterprise and the experimentation that is going on, we really want to facilitate that and help customers get the confidence to really go into production, to really provide these new features to their customers. Fully appreciative that we're still in early days. So that's one side. On the other hand, we have heavily invested in new solutions, also of course for the Web3 natives, as we want the Web3 engineers to be building their applications on GCP. And from a cloud strategy perspective, we're chain agnostic. And we understand the importance of interoperability, security, reliability, and that is really what we're hoping to bring to the space. And I guess at a personal level, I'm really hoping to see the day soon where we can stop talking about Web3 and just keep talking about web. I'm old enough to have seen the web come to life, and we've seen the motion from, I guess, Web 1 to Web 2, and that's also where Google was born, and we're celebrating our 25th anniversary, actually. So time flew by. But I think we just need to get to a point where the adoption gets to a scale where this becomes like a normal utility, where people do not have to be even conscious about the underlying infrastructure. Almost all the conversations I'm having, also at the user level, is infrastructure related almost, and chain related, and it will be so good if we can have similar conversations as we're having with, I don't know, using your Uber. I'm not sure here who in the room knows what the underlying infrastructure is for Uber, but don't think there's many. And that is, I think, a compliment. That is exactly where we need to get. So there's quite a lot of things in the Web 2 world that have worked really well, and we, I think, collectively in the tech industry should be really proud of, and we should be taking that to Web3 and use that for security and scalability. I think we can also play. I'm seeing someone from our friendly other cloud in the room. So we, I didn't. I think there's also a role for us to play in the decentralization area. I think we're relatively new to the space. Decentralization is critical. We're built on open source philosophy, and that's also something we're really trying to infuse in what we do in Web3. And then on the other hand, I think what really helps is we're a consumer company. Hopefully a lot of you are using our apps on a daily basis. We have 4 billion unique users. And then we have an underlying infrastructure across the continent that makes sure that we can all use these applications wherever we go. And I guess the last point that, from a strategy perspective, we really try to bring to Web3 is our strides in sustainability. So we've invested a lot in sustainability even before it was fashionable. So something that not everyone knows is that we were 100% carbon neutral in 2007. So that's already quite a while ago. And we're trying to be completely carbon free by 2030. And we're investing quite a lot in doing that. So I think that's also an important topic in this domain. So that is really something we're focused on. And if you look at blockchain as a technology, and I guess that's another angle to that question, why Web3? I think if you look at the rise of open source and then giving access to information to anyone on planet Earth, that is the mission for Google. If you look at our mission 25 years ago, it hasn't changed. It's exactly the same. It's probably more relevant now than it has ever been. And we see the power of blockchain unlocking exactly that. And hopefully we can play an important role in that evolution. So concretely, what we do for Web3, we have two main solution sets that we have developed. One is called Blockchain Node Engine, which hopefully helps organizations and builders simplify infrastructure. That is really what that is about. It's a fully managed node that we call Blockchain Node Engine. We've started with Ethereum. Many other chains are following. Hopefully it removes a lot of the headache of starting up nodes, maintaining nodes. Nodes go down. If you can leave that to a full service platform, hopefully that gives you more mind share and space to focus on UX and other important elements of your app. And it's dedicated nodes, it's archival nodes, and then we offer it for a fixed price per month. So hopefully that makes it also interesting and less risky to use if you want to use big data sets. So we see customers use this for regulatory environments, for high volume use cases, an isolated environment that you don't want to share with anyone, and then ultimately building platforms and connecting to APIs. So I would invite everyone who's interested to have a look at that, and we can connect you. And then the other element is the data space. You'll know probably from Google we have been very active in data management in general. So we're hosting a number of public data sets in our data warehouse, which is called BigQuery. We started with Bitcoin and Ethereum, Dogecoin, of course, communist Dogecoin, and many others. And what we're currently developing, which I think could be interesting for some of our customers or those who are interested here, is what we call a data hub. So you can work with us to unlock your data sets to all of our customers, anyone who's using GCP. But then on top of that, we want to also deliver a marketplace where you could be selling your private data set to a certain set of customers. We can unlock that through our marketplace. So basically you can leverage our sales force globally and our customers globally to provide access to your applications. So hopefully that is of interest to everyone here in the room, and happy to discuss later over beers and food. I think that's probably the update from my side.
Great,
Have I missed anything?
There are probably many more arguments, but let's discuss them afterwards. Okay. But I think you definitely gave enough, let's say, reasoning why we're not the enemy after all for Web3, but that we actually are friendly here. But yeah, we're not here only to talk about Google, but this is an event from the community and for the community, and we also are inviting the builders and those who are also working together with the builders on stage as well. But before I ask my next panelists to come on stage, I invite you all to be part of the conversation by submitting your questions. If you don't have mobile data, feel free to join our guest Wi-Fi. You don't need a password, and please scan this QR code and submit your questions. You can also upvote others. And then before we wrap up the panel discussion, we will go through some of them. And yeah, and then I will quickly give you some time. If you don't get to scan it on time, we will have the QR code appearing on the upper corner throughout the session. Is my head in the way?
Should I? No?
Is his head on the way?
Okay, it works.
All right, then I'll suggest that we continue by introducing our next panelist. She came all the way from Crypto Valley, the city of Zug, and as a managing director of CV Labs, she's very engaged in developing a vibrant blockchain ecosystem that involves all entrepreneurs, governments, the government, corporates, and the public at large. And before I asked her on stage, she of course shared one of her fun facts with her. And it might be true or not, as I said before. And she said, or might have said, that she filmed a TV commercial when she was a kid. What do you think? Is this true? Would she be here, or would she rather be in Hollywood if it was true? True? All right. Tracy, can you please join me on stage? So welcome, Tracy. Before we kick off with the next panelist, so was it indeed true or was that a lie?
It was indeed true. Fortunately for you all, it never saw the light of day. But you almost had the pleasure in the early 2000s of watching me shill you a family phone plan for Verizon Wireless, for those of you who know US phone service providers.
Yeah,
so
I'm curious, why didn't it air?
So funny enough, it had nothing to do with my acting chops, I would like to point out. I found out only after the fact that when they did some A/B testing with various ads, this particular ad did not sit so well with women. It was sort of exploring different family dynamics and, amongst other things, the relationship between the husband and the wife in the commercial insinuated that the woman was simply talking too much on her phone, which did not sit well with women, apparently. And so they decided to scrap the entire commercial. So, alas, I have not received my Oscar, but, you never know. I think Morgan Freeman started his career in, his late 40s, so still ample opportunity, I guess.
Yeah, funnily, the other option Daniel gave me to mention that his fun fact. Do you want?
No. And now I have to.
Yeah, now you have to.
So Silvana asked me, can you give me some fun facts that I can share with the people in the room? This is going to be embarrassing. So actually, I filmed a commercial. So when I told Silvana, she started laughing. This is incredible, because Tracy had the same. So yeah, I don't want anyone Googling it, so I'm not going to tell anything about it. But yes, I did when I was much younger.
Okay, we may have to hold you hostage at the end to squeeze it out of you. I'm very curious. But clearly there's a lot of acting talent on stage.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So maybe this
or not, and that's why we're here. Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough, fair enough.
We went into Web3.
Failed actors all around. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I didn't get to see either of the commercials, so I cannot tell. All right, but let's get on with our next panelist, who has more than 6 years of experience in the Web3 space with the goal of making Web3 more accessible to everyone. And as for his fun fact, apparently he won Bitcoin in a lottery as a child of only 8 years, and that's why he made the headlines in Swiss news. What do you think? Is this true, or was it too lucky?
Isn't that simple math?
Yeah,
I was like,
6 years in crypto, 1 at 8. You're 14 years old.
I feel like it's going to be a technicality, you know?
Let's
it's going to be
ask
like,
him
I
ourselves.
was 8, I was 12. Let's see.
So let's ask him ourselves. Lukas, welcome on stage. All right, now you can disclose the truth.
It's half true, I would say, because I did win in the lottery when I was 8 years old, but it wasn't Bitcoin. Didn't exist back then. It was a motorcycle. And that was like
as
in the
an
headline.
8-year-old.
Yeah, that's why they put me in the newspaper. It was like such a weird thing. And the weird thing was that little Lukas was actually sad. He won the motorcycle because he wanted to win the third prize, which was like a mobile phone. Yeah. My mom then told me you can actually sell that motorcycle and buy the mobile phone if you want to.
So
entrepreneurial thinking was clearly in the family.
All right, then let's get our next speaker, or last panelist on stage. He has 15 years of experience in banking, in entrepreneurship, and in fintech. He is the head of Europe and managing partner at at Tenity, and for his fun fact, so he grew up in beautiful Switzerland, and he grew up next to a cheese factory, and that's why he loves cheese so much. Can this be true or not? True? Yes? Okay, let's ask him ourselves. Marc, can you please join me on stage?
Well, I would say also semi-true. It was chocolate. And I am actually quite addicted to chocolate. So, yeah, grew up next to, in St. Gallen, there's this Maestrani. They do this small, fancy little chocolate thingy. And yes, depending on the wind, that would be blown directly into our garden. And they obviously, back in the days, also had the factory shop, which was a good source of cheap, high-quantity premium chocolate with the packaging a little bit off, or the Maria Gefferli, like that they are a little bit turned, not properly sticked on each other. So, yeah, so semi-true.
Yeah, I thought I will tweak it a bit. Cheese, chocolate in Switzerland seems legit, right? All right, so we learned all about your fun facts, but maybe we can get more serious now, or like not entirely, but maybe we can give a quick introduction about yourself and your role at CV Labs, at SAFE, and at Tenity. Maybe we can start with you, Tracy.
Sure, happy to. I'm the managing director of CV Labs. We're a daughter company of CVVC, which is Crypto Valley Venture Capital. They're an early stage investor with a focus on blockchain startups, sort of seed to growth stage. And as CV Labs, we like to refer to ourselves as the quote-unquote ecosystem side of the business. So we're responsible for the startup accelerator. We run and maintain a variety of co-working spaces across Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Germany, Portugal, and South Africa. And we have the pleasure of organizing a variety of events, which we last year had the pleasure of welcoming Google at, and made the mistake of introducing Daniël as a representative of the more traditional web space. He took it with a smile and said that it fueled some good internal discussions after the fact. Clearly, it didn't ruin the relationship. We still have the pleasure of collaborating with them on a regular basis. So that's us.
Cool, thank you. Lukas, do you want to continue?
Sure. I'm Lukas, I'm co-founder of SAFE. We're a spin-off from Gnosis. Maybe some of you know that project. What we do is we accelerate the transition to smart accounts. What does it mean? Like currently, we have these blockchain accounts, like use them via wallets, and they have some cool properties. You have full ownership over the assets you have on these accounts, and you can plug them into any dApp and interact them without any permission and so on. But they have one big problem, that they usually are they are controlled by this private key, this like single, these 12 or 24 words that you have to write down on a piece of paper and store somewhere super secure so that no one else finds it, but you surely find it like 10 years later. And that's like a big problem of Web3 today, that we all rely, like these wallets all rely on these private keys. And we built a smart account, which is like a programmable account. It is leveraging smart contracts, and it allows for much more flexibility how you control your blockchain account. So you can do things like multi-factor authentication, spending limits, multi-sig, session keys, like all kinds of things that you can then incorporate in these accounts and just make your Web3 experience more secure and usable. For example, your smart account can also be controlled by a Google login. That's something we recently done, that you can just sign up on an app and sign up with Google, and actually under the hood you are given a blockchain account, and the user doesn't even know that they have it. Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, definitely a very real problem these days. So, okay, Marc, do you want to continue?
Gladly.
Last one.
Gladly. So at Tenity, and maybe some of you still know us as F10, so until February this year we were under the brand F10 and rebranded exactly as mentioned. I saw some old visual in the videos. So
yeah, that wasn't the video. I couldn't change it.
I fully appreciate so. So some of you might know us, even though you think you don't. At Tenity, I'm having the pleasure to be one of the managing partner, but also looking after the European business. And what we are doing is really two sides. Number one is early stage investor in everything around finance, insurance, Web3, and sustainability, and especially when there is the overlap. We run a program in person in Zurich, Singapore, and more recently also in Tallinn. And that's the one side. And the other side is we work with UBS, Six, Generali, Julius Baer, and such companies, but also Clayton, Ripple, Keyrock, for those who know, on how to bring innovation through collaboration with startups into a bigger organization. And so these are the two things.
Cool, thank you so much. So I hope now you get a better picture of who we have on stage to pose your questions afterwards. So maybe I started the session with this graphic on a VC investment. Like, I mean, you are sitting kind of at the root, so what is your stance on it? Do you think the situation is as dramatic as it seems, or what are your experiences?
I mean, I think it's no secret, right? It has been a very slow, year. I think that's also not in any way unique. We've had these periods before, let's say. I think what feels different this time is that even though there might be less capital flowing into projects overtly, there's an awful lot happening behind the scenes. A lot of internal investments being made at large companies that are building out their own internal resources and launching pilot projects, launching products that are being now implemented for the first time. So there's a lot of groundwork that was laid in previous years, and that's now slowly but surely coming to fruition. I think that's one of the, let's say, sort of upsides of bear markets when you reduce the noise of the marketing in and around these, let's say, hype periods where you have, PR statements coming out every day with regards to, yes, we've raised this much, we've done this. This is sort of the period where, again, there's a lot of building still happening behind the scenes. It's less loud, but that doesn't make it any less valuable.
Yeah, maybe just to add, right, to look at numbers of investment, that's the easy one. But as you mentioned, and for those who don't know, there's an index done by A16Z, the crypto, what is it called, index? Just the state of crypto index. So Google it, and they do actually monthly. I use Google it. Did you see that?
Keep going.
Paid marketing, product placement, unpaid actually. No. It's looking at the month by month, and it's monthly updated, and I think that's super interesting at different elements. Obviously, one is funding, right? But what you see is also looking at how many devs are active in the space, how many are building. So these numbers went down versus the crazy bull we have seen the last time, but they didn't go down as dramatically as in the after ICO situation. And even more interestingly, and that's definitely underlying what you were saying, Tracy, there is the smart contracts deployed is actually just going up, and it never went down. And I just checked before today, and it's still going up also in the last month. So that's good sign. So there is being built, and that's definitely cool. I think also the chain usage isn't as bad. Like after ICO, nothing happened, right? And we all know how crazy gas we paid in these first come, first served kind of situations. And now, obviously, the chain has switched to proof of stake, but the volume didn't drop as bad as it did early 18. And maybe last point, when we look at our last cohort of, I think, 11 startups that we had in Zurich now, a lot is actually, again, Web3 related. And which for me is just a very positive signal, because at Tenity we don't say, oh, we only have this investment thesis and that's what we're going after, but we invest quite broadly. So this year we did 47 investments, and a lot are in Web3 space, and many founders, their job is to think in the future, right? So they have a vision of a future many of us don't see, and they have a strong belief, so putting all their money, normally relationships and a lot of stuff at risk to bring that future to life. And so with them having that conviction, I think that gives me a lot of confidence that it's not going to go away, and this by far not dead.
Yeah, maybe to build on what you said, Tracy, I think there's clearly a flight to quality. So yes, it's, you could say, crypto winter. It's kind of cold for a long time. But all the projects that we're seeing are really about actual use cases that have value for user or for business, whereas, rewind the clock 18 months, lots and lots of exciting projects, but it wasn't always clear why that project was started in the first place. Two other interesting views, I think, that are proving that crypto is far from that is one, maybe similar to what you said with smart contract. We're definitely seeing an increase in Web3 developers. So whilst maybe the sentiment is negative overall, the number of developers are actually increasing. So I think that's really positive and probably a leading indicator of what's to come. And the second one, probably the favorite topic, lots and lots of memes from a regulatory perspective. I think there was an interesting session at the US Congress yesterday with our friend Gary. But even when there is a lot of discussion around that and we're seeing that play out in public, we probably all have our opinions about it, both in the US and in Europe, very different in Asia. It is public domain, right? I mean, if you read the news every single day, there's something about blockchain, Web3, and frankly, I don't think that the sentiment itself matters. If you think back a few years ago, you wouldn't have dreamt to see these headlines in the Wall Street Journal and just all the major publications. And I think that's just part of the maturing cycle. So yeah, it's a bumpy one. But yeah, I think if you look at the leading indicators, we're definitely very optimistic still.
Yeah, I think one topic we talked about once during a conversation I remember is that, Tracy, you were telling us a bit like old anecdotes on the projects that were presented to you at that time. How have they evolved over the years?
I mean, yeah, back in the ICO boom days, right? You could just tell all you needed was a halfway decent idea, and you would walk into and pitch to VCs with maybe 3, 4, 5 slides in your deck. Sometimes we'd have the pleasure of having someone walk in and all it said was white paper to come, and you're sitting there thinking, okay, but so you have no line of code written, you have an idea, great, but you're telling me this project has a $15, $20 million valuation based on what? Its potential, etc. So we've come a long way since then, right?
Sounds like an AI startup.
Yeah. Essentially, right. So we've certainly evolved since then. So I think one of the major differences is when you compare sort of the makeup of the teams or the experience of the teams that we're talking to now. One of the exciting things for us as someone who invests, again, also very broadly in terms of the types of use cases for blockchain that we're investing in, is you're seeing people that are coming from these industries who have at times spent 10, 15, 20 years in pharma, have at times spent 10, 15, 20 years in finance, and are motivated by the technology to solve a problem that they have themselves experienced as a member of that industry. And so you're getting to the point where you have these frustrated individuals from an industry that are turning to blockchain as a tool to solve that problem. And you're getting more experienced, let's say, project founders with very diverse backgrounds, right? So it's not just the team of 3 devs that are walking in and saying, hey, look, we think we can solve the world's issues and reinvent the financial system, because we sat together and spit out some code, but now you have sort of a more, let's say, holistic mix within the founding teams where someone will have, that specific industry experience, the other person will provide the technical expertise, the other person comes with sort of a PR and marketing background. So it's more balanced in terms of the teams that you're getting that are approaching you with a project, and they've had to, in general, jump through more hoops in order to get to that point where they are sort of ready for that meeting.
Yeah, maybe just to add on, right, I think what we often tell founders, and because we are at founder stories, right, maybe it makes sense, we see that a shift has happened from, I have this technology, and now I'm trying to find a way to use it, to I have this problem, users or potential clients tell me they have, and maybe blockchain, maybe AI, maybe whatnot can help solve it. But our advice is always don't start with the technology and try to find a problem, right? But start with a real problem, and this is happening, right? And this shift is fundamental, and I think super important as a founder. Don't say, well, I have blockchain, I have super the fastest, in theory, in white paper, right? Layer 7 technology.
Lukas, you're a founder yourself, so I think you're the best to also speak here. So, what is your experience in building in a crypto bear market?
Well, I would actually say the bear markets are nice for long-term builders. So for us, our project has existed for now 6 years. This is our second cycle, and we've been prepared for that. So as long as you kind of calculate in the volatility of the market and just how maybe the sentiment can shift, and it just grows sustainably versus growing too fast in a bull market and then having to scale down in a bear market. As long as you kind of take this into account, it's actually not that bad. In a bull market, you often have the same ideas replicated. So you have a Uniswap, and then you have 20 projects that are doing Uniswap for Solana and Uniswap for Cardano, and but in the bear market is where the actual ideas are originating. For example, Coinbase came out of the 2012 bear market. Ethereum came out of the 2015 bear market. DeFi came out of the 2019 bear market. That's where the actual innovation is coming from. And then usually in a bull market, things are just exaggerated and in a quite unhealthy way. And especially as you also have said, you just need an idea and investors throw money. That's actually not, I don't think it's necessarily good. I think it's the times where you just need to have an idea, and within a week you close a fundraise. It just creates wrong market incentives. And I think investors, capital should have more of an upper hand and should take time to allocate, and only then efficient capital allocation can happen. Otherwise it's just a hype-driven thing.
I think it's also a real challenge, right? We talk to so many founders, and obviously they are pushed, right, in a bull market to deploy. Burn through 10 million a month, come, do more, and then, bear market, let's stop. Now you need to get profitable. So was that something that you experienced?
Not necessarily, because we closed the last fundraise right at 2 weeks after Terra happened. So investors were like, guys, don't burn through this.
But you would have closed 3 months, half a year earlier. We see this all the time. And I think it's super important that you, on both sides, as a founder, try to neutralize. So if bear, try to be more aggressive than maybe the investors, and if bull, try to be less aggressive than maybe you're pushed. And I think because your vision is much more long-term than maybe some of the investors.
And right now is actually the best opportunity to spend money as a startup. Because right now, sponsorships at events are getting cheaper, M&A opportunities are becoming available, talent is more easily accessible. You still have some solidity devs that aim for 500K salary per year. I don't know who's paying that, but I think it's coming down to a more reasonable price.
Sorry for hijacking.
All good. Question to you, Marc. You're not only investing as Tenity, you're not only investing in Web3, but also in the Web2 space, right? So you see both kind of worlds. So what do you say are the difference in terms of the needs of Web3 founders and Web3 startups compared to Web2?
I think what we see is really how you build a company in Web3 is almost flipped. Right. Normally, in Web2, it's very classic. You build it. You have a few founders. You're a team. You share the equity. Then you find some investors, and then you go find basically clients. Right. And I think in Web3 space, it's almost flipped on its head. It starts with a community, and maybe you don't even have a company in the beginning. You start a movement, and then obviously over time, you want rather all your community to have something if it goes in the right way. If it is successful, you want your community to be a part. So I think the community aspect and the involvement of the community is something that in the Web2 space often is ignored, maybe not ignored, but it's later. And many of the Web2 companies that became successful didn't make their users or their early customers successful, necessarily in terms of financially benefiting, right? And in many truly decentralized solutions, it's actually the case. So if what you're betting on, and you also have a true incentive to pay it forward, to invite and maybe become an evangelist for a product, if you have the right community and incentivize them correctly, you have a strong support for really cheap and low customer acquisition costs. So I think that's one element that I would definitely point out that we see. Other than that, I also think a lot of the elements are similar. In the end, you need to find a problem, right? Again, start with the problem, know who you solve it for, and then build a great solution to deliver on that promise. So that's, in the end, the fundamentals don't change, but I think the way then are switched.
Yeah, and that promise, if I can comment on that, I'm not sure who here in the room saw Eric Voorhees' keynote from Permissionless. Show of hands, how many? Just a few. Oh, I would absolutely recommend tonight before you go to bed.
After the BitBoy video.
Yeah, maybe, or before.
Probably before.
Go before. I would absolutely look it up. It's. I thought it was quite refreshing, and you triggered that thought because he was very passionate and basically taking us all back to where this started. And I think if you look at Web3 founders, they're on a mission. And this is also something that I find is quite different from other industries, of course. Luckily, a lot of founders also mission-driven. But in Web3, this is really strong. And sometimes it feels like maybe that is now the sentiment, or because we were all buying NFTs, I don't know. But we sometimes seem to have lost this passion for what this all started with this permissionless technology that would unlock an opportunity for a lot of people on the planet that do not have this opportunity because they don't have access to a financial system or otherwise. So he's, again, I'm not going to spoil everything, but he's talking about the rebels. And I think we probably should wear that as a badge of honor, right? I mean, we should be rebellious because we need to break through systems that have existed for forever and are not benefiting everyone. And I think if I look at the successful Web3 companies today, you really recognize that mission-driven mentality, and just this, as you are as well, Lukas, this is believe in what you're doing, and it's a necessity. And I think that is really important for ultimately growing your community and making sure that your users actually understand why you're doing this. At least something we're seeing.
Yeah, I think this rebelliousness just triggers, I need to check who said this, but it's like this notion of in the beginning they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win, right? But to make the full 3 steps, you need to pull through, and I think for that rebelliousness is here and there needed, right? And obviously the established environment will fight, right? That was always clear. I think anyone who thought this is going to be just smooth and up ever was kind of naive, because everyone who loses something, loses control, loses access, loses I don't know what. Like whenever you lose, you fight. And I think that's what we're seeing now. So maybe we are in the last stage, I don't know. But yeah, so it's good that it's happening and that it's in public domain, that people speak about it, that it's getting front page news. Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of the points are, or like what we already hinted, or you already hinted, is that in order to get to mass adoption, there are a few hurdles that we still need to overcome. So maybe in your opinion, what are the biggest challenges for Web3 adoption? Maybe Tracy?
Ooh, for me, a big one is sort of user experience. I think one of my favorite sort of reality checks was Consensus, not this year, but the previous year, where CoinDesk experimented with this airdrop of desk tokens that you could then utilize to pay for your food and different experiences throughout the conference. And I've never seen a longer line at a help desk than I did during that week, because the actual action of accessing the airdrop, et cetera, was incredibly cumbersome. And so I think it just showed how, from that ease of access point of view, we are still very far away, right? And this is why integrations like what Lukas had mentioned, with being able to access your wallet through things like a Google account or through, Face ID, etc. That is going to be essential, I think, in order to reach that stage where you as a user are able to interact with the Web3 world and space and the applications being built in that area without having to jump through 10 hoops in order to perform a simple action. I think that's where we're unfortunately at the moment still farther away from that than we'd like to be.
Yeah, that's definitely a very valid one. In your opinion, Lukas?
Yeah, I usually summarize it with 4 words, and you covered the first one, so that's good. It's accessibility, so it's the user experience part. It's scalability, it's more kind of a technical perspective. We need to make sure that actually the technologies we build are scalable. They don't just serve like small group of people, and as soon as more come, everything breaks apart. Then it's security. That's also something that's often a second thought, unfortunately, that we need to build technology that actually can be resilient, that we don't read about DeFi protocols getting hacked every week and phishing attacks and so on. We should prioritize also security. And the last one, which is probably the most important one, is utility. It doesn't help us. We built this fancy internet computer, and it's all scalable and usable and everything, but actually it doesn't do anything for users. We need to bring the use cases that people care about, and unfortunately they care about financial use cases, but this is not all their life. So we need to bring more of non-financial use cases also to Web3, be it a social, gaming, data storage, and so on. I think it's quite important that next time we speak about a bull run, it shouldn't just be the prices that go up, but actually people finding value from what we build. Accessibility, security, scalability, and the last one that I just said, utility.
Yeah, how I think of it is really, and I'm hammering this home, right, start with the problem. So what is the killer use cases that we are solving with the technology? I don't think today there is a real strong, 100% clear push for everyone out there to jump and get through the other hurdles that we have been discussing. And I think underneath, for me, there are 3 hurdles under this big one. Number 1 is education. Right? People just don't know, and it's leading to the second one, which is user experience. I think user experience, if you think of it, and you didn't grow up with this over the last few years, and also saw the growth of what is possible with different chains and bridging, and it's horrible. Let's be honest, right? And the third one for me is regulation and clarity there. That it's just how do I do DeFi as UBS? Right? It's just not 100% clear. How do I bring my customer's asset into a leak pool on Uniswap? And how do I get it out? And how do I AML in the process? And this is just not clear at the moment. And I think for me, it's these 4, 3 plus 1.
Yeah, thank you for your insights. I think, Lukas, you gave a pretty good summary, and I think it's also also what you said at the beginning, kind of the things that we're trying as Google to address. And one of them is, for example, security, where we're very big, especially in the Web2 space, where we're heavily invested in Web2 and security solutions, but they also transmit to the Web3 space, right? So how can we, with our security portfolio, also address security concerns in the Web3 space, in your opinion, Daniël?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a good example is, hopefully most of you have read the update we did with Layer 0, where we're validating transactions. So that's a really interesting use case where we can bring our security capability to the Web3 space. And it's a big headache. I was actually thinking when you mentioned hacks, I looked at it recently. I don't dare call out a number, but it's mind-boggling. It's crazy how much money has been stolen, and it's. I think PayPal had an interesting fee issue recently where they paid $500,000 for a transaction, and we still see these. Well, incidents happen. And to your point as well, Marc, I think for an enterprise, this is super concerning. If you want to sell this at a board level and this is what they read and see, then that's an absolute no-go. But also from a user perspective, again, I'd like to think that I've been quite active as a user, and we talked about writing down your security. I mean, I've been in our garden smashing a piece of steel. It's like a huge puzzle, and then you need to write it down somewhere, and then you have to code, and you need to, I mean, yeah, normal consumers will absolutely not engage with such a process. Imagine doing that with your normal bank account. So I think definitely that is probably one of the big challenges, and I mentioned it earlier. Again, I think the biggest ambition for us as an industry should be, it's just the web. It should be just an evolution of this technology, which underlying is going to facilitate new use cases that we weren't able to build before, or it was in the hands of just a few, and now it's in the hands of everyone, if we want. And I think that is where we need to focus in industry. And when you get excited and you have the bull run, and we have our heroes such as SBF and some of our other friends that we have seen. And if that is what we follow, and if that is the example, and I know it's easy to say in hindsight, but it is the reality. And I think we just need to grow up as an industry and just focus our resources and attention on what matters. And I think what matters is, again, this permissionless piece of technology that gives that kind of power to anyone who wants it. And don't have to ask anyone whether they can use it. They can do transactions. They're not dependent on any organizations in the middle. And there's so much power in that concept. So I would love to see us just focus on that, build that foundation, move on to, well, I'm not sure if it's layer 7, but a layer higher, where we can just use these things on our phones or elsewhere, and it's just a part of daily life, and not be distracted with. I have to admit, I've NFTs as well, and I love them. Still, I think we tanked 95% on NFTs,
but it will move, right? I think the technology is amazing, and you now have wallets within NFTs, right? So I mean, there is a lot of stuff, and I always compare it a bit to driving a car. You said before, what is the technology underlying Uber? Driving a car. Who of us could fix anything within a car, let alone maybe sometimes know in a rental what engine is this now, do I need to put what fuel? You only go when you need to fill, right? And then you check, because you still have to, because it's not smart enough, the tank soil, the fueling station, to just put it in, and then whatever the car needs should come out, right? But it's not there yet, because we learn to live with that flow. But we don't need to know what is underneath, and I think we need to get to that stage, and you were hammering this one home quite nicely, I think. It's just UX in the end, UX, and if we have the killer application, I think the rest will follow.
Yeah, and I mean, what Lukas and team are building, and there are luckily a lot of great examples, so let's not be too pessimistic. There are fantastic examples, and that's why you're doing so well as a team and as a project. And I think that's really exciting for the industry, and we need it, because these are the examples, I think, that make sense for a lot of people. So yeah, hopefully many more safes in the industry.
Yeah, besides safe, what we already said, it's already a killer use case, right? Do you see any other killer use case popping up in your experience?
I think the ultra killer, we don't even know yet. Right? I really think it's still to be discovered, and that, who is a founder in here who is trying to do something? It's hard against the light.
30%?
Okay, yeah, exactly. That's why we need you to have your vision, to bring your version of the future to life, right? And build on something that you see that others don't, and push it forward. And hopefully one of you, or at least somebody on the world, will find exactly what will then trigger this tipping point, and for everyone it makes sense. This is what we have been waiting for, and then huge mass adoption that we have been, I don't know, quoting for a decade, 5 years for sure, will definitely happen.
I don't know if it's necessarily a killer use case in that sense. I think it's just it's an area of application that I'm particularly excited about and where we see a lot of traction in the moment. And when we talk about sort of the appeal of mass adoption, I think it's an area that is sort of a nice sort of initial test ground, and that is gaming specifically. I don't know if you're maybe familiar with a project called Alien Worlds. We have the pleasure of hosting them in our building in Zug. And one of the things that they're really focusing on is this community-driven evolution of the game itself. And so they're structured through DAOs. The community very actively votes on how the game evolves going forward. And that is something that I find fascinating, right? So moving away from sort of this need, let's say, to buy the newest version of Call of Duty or of World of Warcraft and constantly having to reinstall new versions of the game, having an active voice as somebody who plays the game in sort of new features that are rolled out in how you interact with other players within the game, I find really fascinating. And so I think we'll see this kind of communal collaboration entering other areas as well that we can't even conceive of right now because it's just not something that we've considered going forward, right? I think you see a lot of experimentation happening in the luxury goods sector right now and in sort of brands that are again utilizing, NFTs get a lot of flack. Don't get me wrong. I don't think I think there is some very, very valid criticism in and around the experiences that this particular use case has had. Also because it's kind of been pigeonholed into sort of the art sector, even though its use cases are much, much broader than that. If you're interested, there's a really cool use case being tested out in the legal sector that looks at being able to serve subpoenas in the form of NFTs to anonymous malicious actors. So if you get hacked, you don't know who the person is, you're able to serve a subpoena in the form of an NFT, and the arrival of that subpoena in the person's wallet is legally recognized as them being served that subpoena. So there's some cool stuff happening in that space. But NFTs, we really saw sort of the gateway drugs for large brands to start experimenting with sort of this community feedback, right? At this point in time, what a lot of particularly luxury brands are looking at is ensuring their survival by nurturing a very enthusiastic sort of fan crowd. And I think, again, here we're just sort of at the cusp of figuring out how this type of technology and this type of structuring, through DAOs, through really community-driven feedback loops, how that will contribute to sort of the future evolution of how brands and e-commerce interacts with the consumer. So that's something I'm particularly excited about. If it's a killer use case, I guess we will see. I just personally find it really interesting.
Sorry, go for it.
Just want to say it would be pretty sad if the best thing that comes out of the NFT thing is a better way to serve subpoenas.
Well, if they send you a Bored Ape, it's gonna
need to check the wallets if we get some NFT served.
Exactly. Yeah. One thing that I think resonates a lot with me, what was said, I think by all three of you, is it's impossible to look into the future. If you, again, I mentioned when we had our chat initially about the alignment with the web in general and how it aligns to that philosophy. If you remember CV Summit, I brought a quote. You probably don't remember. And if you read the quote, it is 100% a quote that could have been said by anyone who's in Web3, but actually it came from a number of scientists in a lab, I think in the 60s, when they were already thinking about and working on internet technology at the time. So this whole philosophy was already there, and we needed, well, a few decades to actually build the technology in the 80s, and then finally opening it up in the 90s. We saw the boom, similar, 4 slides, something with the web, and you were funded. And I mean, a lot of companies died, but Google was born, right? And many other very successful internet companies. So maybe that is the time we also need as an industry. One thing I want to pride us on, by the way, as in us, is we haven't even mentioned ZK rollups. Isn't that an achievement? We've been here for, what, an hour? I mean, I think that's quite a thing. But that is actually one of those innovations that I think is going to help abstract away all that complexity and making it much easier for users to start looking at all new set of use cases that don't have to be bothered with all that complexity. So I think we're making the steps, we're getting there. Accessibility, such as safe building, one day that has to break through. But yeah, the killer use case, I think one of the tests is how many users do we have as an industry. And you said it jokingly, but we've always said as an industry, we need to get to 1 billion users. Not sure who came up with the number, but that's the number apparently. But we're not there yet. So I think, to be decided.
Great. So before we slowly transition into the Q&A, maybe we can, you already mentioned the word future, so let's try to sum it up, like from your perspective, what do you think does the future of Web3 look like? In one short sentence or one word, one keyword. Up to you.
Promising.
Can I do a sentence?
Of course.
It's going to be a very long sentence. I mean, it's what I hope will happen from Safe's perspective, of course, that every account will be safe, which will make just Web3 more accessible and secure. And actually not every blockchain account is as safe, but then also every digital account is going to be a blockchain account. That's maybe more the bold statement. I think like social media accounts, bank accounts, game accounts, they're all going to be blockchain accounts eventually. And the third one, and I know it's a very, very long sentence. The third one is like users don't even know that these are blockchain accounts. So it's like all abstracted away.
Oof, I also have to boil it down into one word. I guess
you can use also one sentence or more. No worries.
I'll say the word,
no
and then
pressure.
I feel like I have to give context. I think collaborative, right? So this idea of it's no longer Web3 and everything else, but I think one of the nice things about blockchain as a technology is it by default has the ability to interact with a lot of the other sort of, major topics of the moment, whether it's AI, whether it's social movements, etc. It is there's an underlying ethos in what blockchain tries to achieve, which is this transparency, this open source accessibility that I think sort of filters in or is a catalyst for a lot of the sort of real problems of our time and real let's say real topics that we're dealing with today. And instead of building in this silo of Web3, I'm really looking forward to this sort of more collaborative phase where again you have all of these different industries that are very actively contributing to the future development of the technology.
Daniël, you have to keep it short.
It's always difficult to be the last. We should have started here. I'll keep it short. The thing that comes to mind for me is I hope the rebels win. That's what I would say. If I think about CBDCs and all those kind of developments, I think we could end up in a very different future, and I'm not sure if that was ever the intention. So that is what I would say if I need to keep it short.
Very nice. Thank you, Daniël. So now let's move over to your questions. And can we move over to the Mentimeter, please? Perfect. Okay, that was the most upvoted question. Does anyone want to give context, or should we move on to the next one?
Well, I think it depends on all of us, right? If we all go out and talk to 100 people, moon sooner than if we go home and don't talk to anyone.
I think it's simpler than that. I think you just need to go talk to Gary, good old Gary, and then let's see, right?
Good question.
All right, let's move to the next one. What is the business model of Safe? How do you generate revenue? Lukas, I guess this one is for you.
Please don't make any of us answer.
Fine if you answer it. So no, I mean, we want to build an ecosystem that's built on this smart account. That's our main objective. And we want to have a business model that aligns with the growth of the ecosystem, being somehow like sustainable. So we do actually care more about creating business models for others that are building on Safe, and in a way that hopefully keeps the entire thing sustainable. So we think more of us like Ethereum. Ethereum doesn't have a business model. Like it actually benefits from more projects being built on Ethereum. It drives traction to Ethereum, which drives the value of the Ether asset, which then is like a win-win situation for both the underlying network, the protocol, but also the ecosystem on top. And so we think more in the line of that. It's going to be a long-term thing to build that out, and we don't have all the answers just yet, but that's how we're thinking. And yeah, there's more hopefully on this in the next months that shows a little bit the direction where we're heading.
Thank you.
#Alpha.
Exactly.
So moving on to the next one. How do you assess the profitability of Web3 startups to decide on potential investment? I guess this one is for you, Tracy, or Marc.
Well, we look at companies so early that normally we really look at the team. So who is in the team? And I think, Tracy, you mentioned like a lot of what we are looking there is exactly the same. And an additional question for me is like, why you, right? So we don't look at profitability or anything, but we look like, why are you the right person to build this, and what is the team bringing together? That's our primary focus. We don't look at any numbers. Normally there are no numbers that are kind of supporting an investment.
I guess for us, it's similar in that sense, but what also boils down to, again, is there an actual problem that you're solving, right? At the end of the day, and I think that's not specific to Web3 startups, that's specific to any startup that you're looking to invest into. And then you have the classics, right? How big is the market that you're looking to service? Do we believe in the business model that you're looking to implement, et cetera? We're also fairly early stage, right? So for us, it is meanwhile really, really important to ensure that whatever problem they're looking to solve, they know that industry really, really well, right? It's nice if you build a solution for an industry that you don't know that works in theory, but again, if it's far removed from sort of the realities of regulatory limitations, et cetera, then it might be the best business case on paper, but in reality, not something you can implement.
Just one comment. Sometimes it takes an outsider to disrupt the business, right? So normally, yes, but sometimes if you have a compelling story why you, even though you don't have the expertise in the industry, that can still work. Yeah, definitely helps.
Yeah, very helpful. So moving on to the next one. In which Web3 products and use cases Google is investing? So Daniël, I guess that one is for you.
Sounds like it. I'm not sure if it's meant in external projects or internally. I can try and answer both. So internally, I think we covered it earlier. So a lot is going to the execution of nodes seamlessly, at scale, and safely. That is a key priority for us, and that's really where we're focused. And we discussed the data side, analytics, the public data set, as well as the hub. Externally, and you said this in your introduction, and it is indeed a fact that I think is not well known. Alphabet was the largest publicly traded investor last year, with I think about $1.5 billion in investment in Web3 companies. Some very well known, like Yuga Labs, and there were some other really big names. But I think what is maybe
we got that right. Google invests in NFTs, right?
Well, in the company that builds NFTs. Hopefully legal agrees with that. So I think what is probably more interesting as well is to think strategically where we think we're going to add the value. And again, that is the global accessibility to the use cases that are being built today. And it is maybe the least sexy story in Web3, but I think we've discussed it many times on the panel. It is probably still the biggest headache. Namely, if you want to run an application for 1 billion users globally, it has to be secure. There's a lot of elements that are required. And I think based on the experience that we have in building a global infrastructure, literally the ocean cables that are connecting the continents, thinking about security. You can imagine that Google's attack surface on the consumer side is incredibly large. So we have to think about these topics very, very deeply. And these are the things that we're trying to democratize through the platform and share with our users, so that you don't have to be concerned about this anymore. And again, we mentioned Layer 0 as one of the latest, I think, partnerships where we're bringing like multi-party compute type of security to the blockchain. And then hopefully we're going to see many more of those examples. So directionally, that's where we're headed.
So we are almost at the time, so I suggest that we cover one more question before we let you go to the apéro. So I guess all of you are thirsty and hungry, so we don't want to hold on too long. So Daniël, again for you.
There's clearly a very big mistake being made here. There's no crypto, there's only Bitcoin. No, I'm not joking. It's actually quite interesting. And you mentioned alpha and being so heavily involved now in the industry and working with a lot of super exciting startups. Actually, I will get in a lot of trouble probably if I start to invest. So actually, I really can't. So if you see my job change to another company, then maybe that was the reason. But no, for now, I'm not investing. I'm hodling and just enjoying the journey we're on. And hopefully more exciting things to come soon.
What about the others?
I mean, I'd be a hypocrite if I said no, right? Of course, our investment focus on the CVC side is not on the token side, so we generally do equity deals. But personally, I've been an enthusiastic crypto hodler since. For a couple of years now, let's put it that way. And I think there is, again, a lot of exciting stuff still coming out of the industry, right? Right now, it's fairly quiet on the ICO front. But again, you see a lot of traction coming from older projects, right? That, again, gives sort of a clear vision of where they're heading into the future. There's a lot of changes happening on that front right now. And so I think it's always a question of which project manages to provide conviction to a satisfactory amount that makes you go, I want to be a part of that in the future.
I'm actually just like 24/7 day trading.
No. You're too invested, is what I mean.
I mean, I bought some tokens of just projects I found cool, but not like I don't want to remove myself from like this price action topic as much as possible. I think I have enough headaches with building a startup or like building the project. I don't buy cryptos, unfortunately. Like this might sound lame, but it helps me sleep, I guess.
If you're a founder of a Web3 startup, then that is not lame, I think. You're okay.
You're fine.
Well, for me, I'm a big fan of simple stuff. So DCAing is definitely something that should be the way, right? And I think generally, if you do that, obviously you should always be buying or in like normal quantities. And the other one is diversification, right? Don't put all eggs in one basket. That's maybe the 6 year at UBS wealth management worker speaking. But diversify in top projects, and that's what I'm trying to do here and there. And obviously get some fancy NFTs, but less for the uptick, but maybe just because either they do something nice if it's in the gaming space, not so much a gamer, not the time for that, unfortunately, though I never was. I mean, I was actually when I was younger. Should maybe. But no, I'm not in the gaming space, but I think also there is a lot of things that are coming that are interesting. And if you believe the big successful investors, you should buy when everyone else is scared. And I think that's the scary thing to do, is to be not scared when everyone is scared and trying to live by that.
So, unfortunately, we are almost at the end, but one step closer to your foods and drinks. But before I let you go, please submit your feedback by scanning this QR code, because depending on what we receive as your feedback, we will make also this next session and also have some topics then to discuss and to involve you more. So please take the time to scan it and give us some.
Who knows the story of that? I think Google. How is it called? Like dinosaur.
Stan the Rex.
He has a name. Stan.
Stan the Rex.
What is Stan? Who knows about Stan? When you have no internet, you can play the game. Yeah, I want to crazy. You know the backstory? You know something?
Who can we hold personally responsible for Stan?
I feel I'm put on the spot. Do I know the backstory? I've met Stan.
Me too, in Mountain.
He's actually at our corporate headquarters. Truly, there's a T-Rex skeleton, that's Stan. Do I know the backstory? Man, you're putting me on the spot. Can we cut the stream?
Over and out, enjoy the drinks.
Wasn't it even the...
All right.
Why don't you tell the story and I'll tell you if it's true?
I have no clue. I was always wondering, and here and there I catch myself playing it. I still like it.
So let's make the story that one of the founders bought Stan, the Tyrannosaurus skeleton, and thought it was a cool idea to implement it whenever you don't have access to internet, and they turned it into this very addicting game. At least I think it's addicting. It will destroy your spacebar at some point.
Yeah, luckily there's a search engine out there where you can look it up, so maybe we can ask there.
I think the bigger question is when can we expect your Stan-themed NFT collection to drop, Daniel?
OMG. Mass adoption out there.
Maybe we launch it next week. CV Summit.
All right.
Sorry.
I guess people are getting thirsty and hungry. So before we let you off, we want to give you the opportunity to make as much as possible from the networking afterwards. So depending on whether you're on the founder side or on the investor side, I'd like to ask you to get a sticker. They are outside on the tables, and then put it on your badge so you can identify each other and get connected. And also for those of you who are founders and have a startup, please scan this QR code if you're looking for some credits to build your application on Google Cloud. You can get up to 200,000, but we also have the QR code outside, so if you don't have time right now, you can scan it with a glass of wine or a bite. So thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks you for the panelists, and enjoy the networking apero.
Should we go?
Yep.
Have drinks?
Yes.
you.